Hi, everyone. The news about Kate Middleton has hit everyone pretty hard, and I want to explain a couple things about her that might help from an astrological point of view. But before I get into that, I just want to say one of the reasons why she is important to people is because we have very few role models for people who are actually elegant. And the word elegance and qualities of elegance are rare to find these days, especially when it comes to manners and how we treat each other. Whenever I ask young girls, who's your role model? And I've been asking this question for 20 years, and everyone usually says Kate Middleton. So the news of her cancer diagnosis is obviously something that's going to shock a lot of people because I think we actually need role models in our world, especially for younger people. So this news is really sad, but I want you to know that I think she's going to come through this fine. And I'm actually going to put forth the thought that this actually will turn out to be probably one of the best things that's ever happened to her in terms of her marriage and how she feels emotionally. So let's start with what I'm seeing in her natal chart, which is not easy. So she is an extremely sensitive person. Her moon is in Cancer. Anyone who has that will tend to be more sensitive and emotional. It's where the moon is in its best place. So it's considered a good thing to have this. Empathy is usually one of the qualities that people with moon in Cancer have. But when she was born, she has a square down here to both Saturn and Pluto. This is not easy. And then it's opposite her sun. And then her sun is also squaring the Saturn and Pluto. So Saturn and Pluto, we want to look at them as the harsher outer planets, which when they're making red lines to the inner planets, they can be somewhat painful. So I believe that she has been suffering for pretty much her whole life with a pretty sensitive nature in a world that is probably not as sensitive as she is. So this is what I call a little mousetrap here of pain and suffering, that if you get stuck in it, sometimes it's difficult. And what can happen with emotional things is they can start to manifest in the body in order for the emotional trauma to be released. So what's happening right now, and I saw this the other day with the eclipse, if you check this out, it's pretty intense. We're going to put Kate in the middle and the eclipse on the outer side. So this is what I just showed you, her moon in Cancer, opposite her sun in Capricorn, and then these are the two outer planets. And you want to look at the numbers. So it's 18, 19, 21, and 26. So the ones that are super close are the 18 and 19, and 21 is close, and then 26 is a little further out, but they're still pretty close. So even though we can't see the red lines here, I want you to know that every day of her life, this never changes. This is her natal chart. The red line that's coming from here to here, and then from here to here, that mousetrap that I showed you, that's permanently in her chart. And what happens with the weather that we get is sometimes our mousetraps get activated. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I actually think it can be good because there was a lot of pain and suffering going on here. So look what's happening on the eclipse, and it's been building. So what I'm showing you is just where it's hitting its peak. The eclipse, all of these Aries planets are at 19. The numbers are significant, even if you don't know a lot about astrology. I am telling you that this combination of 19, 19, 19, that's the eclipse right there. All of those are making red lines to her mousetrap. So it's like getting a laser beam of shock, almost like toxic shock to her entire emotional self. But I think it's in order for it to heal, because I think she was carrying way too much of the emotional stuff. And what's fascinating to me is when I look at William's chart, he has his moon in Cancer as well, which is one of the best things you can have for a partner. And he does love his wife. So I want you to understand that that's not the issue. But the problem is, even though he's sensitive, he doesn't have a lot of squares over here. That's a square. And I don't even count that one because I don't think it's that big of a deal. So his inner self-awareness of his wife's pain and suffering was probably not as strong as it should have been. I think he's getting a major wake-up call right now with this thing with his dad and now with his wife. Right now, up in the sky, he's got, during the eclipse, he's got the Neptune squaring his moon and Neptune squaring the sun. Look at where the sun and the moon are, in the area of the wife, the partner. So he is going through his own kind of trauma, trying to understand her better, which actually really needed to happen. I don't think he was always the best at giving her comfort, because check this out. This is so interesting. Let me pull this up. I know for those of you who don't know astrology, you're going to be a little bit lost, but I want you to see how incredibly perfect she is for him. So Kate Middleton is down here on this side. Her Jupiter trines his moon, his sun. Her Mars is conjunct his Mars, so they like to do physical things together, which is great. But she brings a lot. If you look over here, just at the colors, there's a couple of red lines here, but they're not that serious. Whereas he brings a lot of emotional trauma to her because his Pluto squares her moon and her sun, and Saturn squares her moon and sun. So this has not been easy for her. Even though he loves her and she loves him, he has not had a real deep awareness because he wasn't born with it. Without having a lot of squares, you tend to not internally notice some things, but boy, oh boy, there's no way on earth he can avoid waking up to the fact that I believe Kate, this mousetrap that I was talking about, it being activated right now, is very, very indicative of the fact that this needed to happen. So I will predict, and of course this is for entertainment purposes only, because I'm not a fortune teller and I don't believe in astrology for that. But if I was to read into the weather coming up, I think she's going to come through this. As I said from the beginning, I think this is going to be probably one of the best things that's ever happened to her marriage, because he is strong and she is stronger. She has been stronger. They're going to come out better than ever after this. So that's really good. The other thing that's interesting is that Kate's mother has her Jupiter in Cancer right on her moon. So her mother is super, super close to her. And that's been a huge amount of emotional support. So what she didn't get from William, she probably got from her mom. And this diagnosis, it actually shows up in Kate's mother's chart too. So whenever I see things that are repeating all over the place, it shows up in Prince William's chart, sorry, Prince George's chart, and it shows up in Princess Charlotte's chart right now, that they're having some worries about their mom, but they're not, it's not going to be like unbelievably devastating. They're just going through the weather of what it is. And the one who's the real troublemaker in the family is the little one, Prince Louis, because his moon is in Leo. And that's not that easy for people who have moon in Cancer sometimes, because the Leo people need a lot of attention, and they are also very much needing to be in center stage. So when we look at him, I just want to pull him up real quick here. He's a handful for her, for sure. He's got Uranus next to his sun. So he's a little hyperactive, and he's got a bit of a mouth on him too, because his Mercury's in Aries. So we've seen him, he sort of acts out a lot, which is very indicative of Uranus next to the sun, Mercury in Aries, and moon in Leo. So she's got her hands filled with him. He's doing his own thing, and the kids are all going to be fine. She's going to be fine. I think this will end up having a gigantic, beautiful silver lining. I think that William has begun to realize that his wife has been suffering more than he realized, because this is not easy. And the eclipse is coming in to just blow it out. It's almost like in your car, you build up all the calcium and all the deposits. and you have to flush it out with the fuel injection. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, it's like you're getting rid of all the debris around, and that's what this health crisis is doing to them. So she's going to be fine, in my personal opinion. Now, Charles, that's a whole nother thing going on here with him right now. He's definitely suffering at the moment with Pluto up in the sky is squaring his moon and his Mercury. So he's feeling pretty depressed right now. And I think he's suffering from a lot of the things that Kate has had every day of her life. So I think he's having a lot of sympathy for her too, because I think he's beginning to realize that what she's been feeling all along, he's just feeling now. So it's very important for these people to realize when you have a chart with emotional difficulties, many of us, we just get the emotional difficulties from weather. But some of us, like Princess Kate, myself included, I was born with it. So we have to learn how to manage it, but we need other people to understand what we deal with. And I think that's what's happening now. I think she's getting a ton more support from her husband, and I think a ton more support also from Charles. So I think this is going to heal her emotionally, and it's all going to be okay. Now with Charles, he's got a rough year, very rough, because Saturn up in the sky is squaring his Mars, which is, you know, his body, how he moves through life. And Neptune is also squaring his Mars. So there's something kind of unusual going on with his health, something sort of mysterious and hard to treat, or I don't even know exactly what kind of cancer he has, but maybe whatever it is, it's a problem that's not that easy to figure out. Now, the thing he's most worried about is his wife. Looks like he's completely freaking out about not having her. Like when he dies, he is terrified of not being with her. Now, what's interesting about Camilla, which is so fascinating, is that she is also a moon in Cancer person. So I would imagine she's quite close to William and Kate, because all of them have moon in Cancer, and she does too. And right now, because look at all these 19 numbers again, 19, this is 23, that's still pretty close. During the eclipse, she's getting hit very, very hard, just like Kate, where I told you those numbers were all near 19. So Cancer is in a square to Aries. So this is not easy for her. She's having a very difficult time with this. She'll be fine, because I think from looking at her chart, she's gone through enough stuff in her life that is just one more thing to go through. But it's actually Charles who's having the harder time with the idea of not being with her. So that is my overall view of the whole royal family situation. Please let me know what you think. And please like the video, share it. Please ask me questions. If I didn't cover everything you wanted to know about, I'm happy to dig a little deeper. But I just spent the last hour looking at the entire whole family system, and this is my outcome for the hour of study, that I think it's all going to be okay for her. So let's hold a positive thought for her and her family. All right. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.